Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and it's official. Apple has finally set a date for its annual Worldwide Developers Conference, and that is going to take place on June 22nd. This will be the first time ever that WWDC is held online only, and every single person who has an Apple developer account can attend classes virtually for free on the Apple Developer app and Apple Developer website. And while there might be some hardware announcements, which I'll save for the end of the video, we know one thing is certain. We are going to get our first glances at iOS 14 on Monday, June 22nd. Now, one of the biggest changes we are expecting with iOS 14 is a possible new home screen with a list view. This should look similar to how Siri suggestions are now, and this list view might even obtain some smart Siri suggestions on what app you're looking for. And this might also include some sort of app drawer, just like we see on Android. There's also leaks within iOS 14 code that indicate that widgets may be making an appearance as an addition to the home screen. Again, widgets on the home screen is a feature that Android has had for quite some time, and while there are rumors and even some diagrams on how maybe this might work, we still don't have a full indication of what widget support will look like on iOS 14. There's also been rumors and leaks saying that Apple may be finally opening up iOS to a point where they will start letting users change the default first-party applications. For example, Mail, Calendar, and Music could be changed to other applications like Gmail, Fantastical, or Spotify. We are also expecting wallpaper changes to be coming to iOS 14 with the addition of grouped wallpaper collections and dynamic wallpapers. I assume these dynamic wallpapers would change with the time of day and would be opened up to third parties. Right now with iOS 13, Apple has some default wallpapers that will change color depending on whether you have your system set to light mode or dark mode. We are also expecting Apple to include a new category in the Photos app for the Shot on iPhone challenge. This is the challenge that they do every so often where they will have users submit photos to them and then they will pick the winners and then feature them in their ad campaigns. Currently, Apple uses a lot of third-party services like Twitter, Instagram, or just emailing the photo directly to them, but if they're building that into the Photos app, that would be easier to expose that feature and also maybe submit your photos or maybe get a collection of those winning photos, and then you could use them for things like wallpapers. Furthermore, iOS 14 will be including some new notification and tracking features for location sharing in the Find My app. This will have new options to receive an alert when someone doesn't arrive at a specific location or at a scheduled time of day. Apple is also developing a feature for iOS 14, which they are calling Clips, which would allow you to use certain segments of an app without fully downloading it. We are also expecting iOS 14 to have an enhanced focus on augmented reality. Apple is planning an iPhone 12 with the LiDAR scanner at the end of the year. This would be very similar to the new iPad Pros, which also have this brand new LiDAR scanner. And we should see a whole new set of apps that are able to work with this LiDAR scanner for enhanced augmented reality. Before everything was going on, Apple was said to be working on this with their store demos and also in Starbucks stores to display information when you hold your phone up for things like prices or calorie information. Based on current events, I'm not sure if that's the sort of demos they'll be going with, but again, we should expect to see just enhanced augmented reality features overall system-wide. We are also expecting some additional features in HomeKit with iOS 14, and it's supposed to include things like night shift for lights and an improved Apple TV audio experience. There have been rumors of a new HomePod and HomePod Mini that might be shown off at WWDC, and recently the firmware on the HomePods has been changed from iOS to tvOS. So Apple could release new HomePod speakers that have an easier way of becoming your default TV speakers for the Apple TV. Now, I wanted to do a dedicated section for leaks regarding iPadOS 14, but when I went back and looked at all the reporting, it looks like there actually isn't too much information here, and some of the information that was leaked a while ago has already turned up. Things like the Magic Keyboard with scissor switch mechanism and a trackpad obviously has already shipped. Things like cursor support, which was to be included with that Magic Keyboard and trackpad, are already present in iPadOS 13.4. So for this section, I really don't have any new information or rumors. But I would expect to see more of a focus on that new Apple Magic Keyboard with trackpad and maybe some additional features within iPadOS 14. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite Apple operating system, tvOS. So right now, what we know about tvOS is that Apple is actually planning a new Apple TV workout app, codenamed Seymour. This app will allow users to download guided workouts and be coached via the Apple TV, and then that data will sync to your Apple Watch. This app will also have integration into Apple Music and allow you to listen to your own music during these workouts. We also have seen possibility that there might be a new physical Apple TV remote in iOS software code. But no images of this possible new physical remote have leaked. Now moving on to watchOS 7, and this one is really exciting for me. Now there's a lot of features that have been leaked for watchOS 7, but at this point, we're not certain if these will require new dedicated hardware like an Apple Watch Series 6, or if they can be enabled via just a software update. I actually had the pleasure of talking to John Prosser on my podcast GadgetCast, and he was telling us all about these new Apple Watch mental health features where they would be able to, use this new blood oxygen sensor that is predicted to be in the Apple Watch Series 6 to level things like your stress and your anxiety, and then even alert users if they're about to have a panic attack. And on that episode, Prosser just gave us a ton of information regarding all of this stuff, and probably a lot of information I'm not even including in this video. So if you are interested in that expanded breakdown, I will leave a link to that episode in the description below. Also, we are planning to have John Prosser on GadgetCast this Thursday, and I'm sure the topic of WWDC will definitely come up. So if you want maybe even more information, I would recommend checking that out. Now, we are expecting other health features to make its way over to watchOS 7. One of those long-awaited features would be the ability to track your sleep with inbuilt sleep tracking on the Apple Watch, and then this would be able to measure your sleep quality. And this sleep tracking would also include new battery management features, because obviously the Apple Watch battery lasts for a day. So if you're using it for sleep tracking, maybe Apple would advise you to charge it 30 minutes to an hour before you sleep, or 30 minutes to an hour after you wake up. We are also expecting watchOS 7 to include a new kids mode and also a school time feature that would block out access to certain apps. Of course, we are also expecting new watch faces to make its way into watchOS 7, including a new infographic Pro watch face with a tachymeter, and new watch faces with international flags with options for multiple countries, and also the ability to share your own watch faces with other users. Okay, now moving on to macOS 10.16, and this is another one where we really don't have too much information on what sort of features Apple will be including in the next version of macOS. The only real software update leak that I have found so far is that maybe a Pro mode might boost the performance on portable Mac laptops that could run the fans at a higher constant speed, or other features that prioritize performance over battery life. However, I think one of the big focuses for this year is going to be the ARM processor transition, where Apple will be using their own A-series chips inside of their Mac computers. Bloomberg is reporting that Apple will start the transition of the Mac from using Intel processors to using their own ARM-based processors in 2021. Bloomberg says these Mac system-on-a-chip designs will be based on the A14 processor and are currently in development. These chips will reportedly be manufactured by TSMC based on a 5nm fabrication process. The first of these chips will feature 8 high-performance CPU cores and at least 4 energy-efficient cores, for 12 cores in total. For now, Bloomberg is speculating that Apple's first ARM-based Macs will only be available in their lower-powered MacBooks, because right now they don't think that they are able to match the performance of some of the higher-end Intel chips. In fact, I recently did a video comparing the MacBook Air with the i7 against the latest 2020 iPad Pro, and the processor inside of the iPad Pro just smoked that lower power chip that Intel was offering. So this ARM transition for Apple using their own A-series chips inside of their Mac laptops first make a ton of sense to me. I see no reason why Apple shouldn't put their own processors in something like a MacBook Air or even the MacBook Pro. If the ARM transitioning is happening, we may see a similar strategy to when Apple switched from PowerPC to Intel. Apple showed off Macs running on Intel well before they started selling them. They needed to get developers ready to start developing their own apps for those Intel Macs, so we could see them do the same thing and show off our MacBooks at WWDC, even though they might not be ready to go on sale until 2021. And that is just pure speculation on my part. I have no inside knowledge if Apple is planning to show off ARM MacBooks at WWDC. I just think that would be the natural progression to follow if they really want to get a bunch of developer support for day one whenever they release these ARM MacBooks. Okay, so what about new hardware? I know a lot of people want some new hardware to be shown off at WWDC. Like I just said with my previous segment on ARM MacBooks, I would expect maybe to see a prototype ARM MacBook on stage at WWDC. I don't know if it would be anything special. Maybe it's just a MacBook Air that has an ARM processor, and then they're touting just how much more performance they are getting over a similar Intel class chip. But again, even if they show that off, I wouldn't expect to see that ready to go on sale this year. Now, honestly, there isn't a lot of hardware yet that hasn't been announced yet. Originally, we were expecting a new MacBook Air and new MacBook Pro to be shown off at WWDC this year, but those were already announced. And we were also expecting a new iPad Pro to be shown off at WWDC. And as you know, that was also already announced. The iPhone SE was already announced. So what's left? Well, there are actually a couple. Like I said earlier in this video, Apple is also planning to announce a new HomePod or a new HomePod Mini. So we might see that at WWDC. There is also rumors that Apple is working on a new iMac, and if this is a iMac redesign, they might want to give that stage time rather than releasing it in a press release like they've been doing with the iPhone SE, MacBook Air, and iPad Pro. Even though those are new products, they don't really have new designs and don't really need to be explained all too much. But if Apple just had a iMac with a cool new redesign, I bet they'd really want to show that off on stage. We also know that Apple is planning to release a new Apple TV at some point with the codename T1125. And current speculation is that it will just be an updated Apple TV with an A13 processor to keep supporting a wider variety of games for Apple Arcade. And finally, there has been another rumor that's been circling around of Apple branded headphones. These Apple headphones would have a couple of new features attached to them, and they would retail for $350. So these Apple headphones would have features that are similar to Apple AirPods Pro, with technologies like the H1 chip for things like noise cancellation and a transparency mode. And it's also said that these headphones will offer distinct customization, like being able to change the ear pads and headbands magnetically. We are also expecting the arrival of AirTags at some point, and these have been long rumored and they have even leaked in iOS code. So maybe Apple might show off AirTags at WWDC. And if you don't know what AirTags are, they're basically little trackers that would be similar to tile trackers, and then they would use the giant iPhone, iOS, and MacBook device network to ping location of lost items directly to your iPhone. But anyway, that's what I think you should expect at WWDC this year. Please let me know in the comments below, what are you most excited for? Or if there's something else I didn't cover in this video, also let us know in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you're subscribed. As always, if you want to help the channel out in any way, make sure you check out some of the links in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.